Alright, let's do a quick little mic check, because I was just having some weird stuff going on with the mic, so just let me know how it sounds. It sounded fine when I played it through my TV, but when I heard it through my speakers, it sounded like it was picking something up from the background, so just let me know. There's always something with these setups, I'll tell you. How's it sound, guys? Just making sure that we're good before we get started up in a couple of minutes. Loud and clear. Alright, thank you, Chance. Thank you, Amtrak fan. Made a nice cup of hot tea. Get some water. Got a nice little surprise in store for you guys today, showing something that I've never showed on stream before, or on any video before for that matter. You'll probably get a good kick out of it. Can't share it with you guys, but I've trimmed out all of the identifiable parts of it for the stream. So yeah. It's super helpful when doing curvature and stuff. And it could be helpful for things like scenery, for that matter. So we'll give it another minute. Hey, Southeastern Rail fan, what's going on, man? Give it another minute, and we'll get started. So as you can see, we're at where we started 2 days ago. That stream was just more like a criticism type stream, and just demonstrating to him how you should be laying the track and all that. We're going to be redoing all that little work today. And remember that curve I was having trouble with around Bay interlocking, where we're like, oh, the curvature on the charts doesn't match up? I figured out what was wrong. The charts, there's an error in the charts, but I misinterpreted it and didn't figure out the issue, but I figured it out now. So hopefully we'll be good with that curve, because that was an annoying ass curve. But I think it was a good learning experience for everybody. Alright, let's get started. So this is where the route ends. Washington and Baltimore. Ends right around here, milepost 93. Got this curve right here. Alright. So this is what I want to show you guys. For those of you guys who saw the stream 2 days ago, you'll know about the track charts and how to interpret these, and plugging the curvature values in here to convert it to what the game uses, etc. But what I didn't show you is this. Now, a friend of mine gave me these a while ago, and I stripped out all the identifiable details of these videos. What these videos are geometry train recordings of an Acela Express from the head end of the Acela Express. I have one from Boston to Washington, and from Washington all the way to Boston. So the full length of the corridor in both directions. It's recorded in 720p, 60 FPS. There's no audio. The camera is heavily zoomed in. I don't really know why, but it reduces the sensation of speed for sure. And these videos have been really, really useful to me when looking at curvature or scenery in general. So we will be referencing these throughout. There's a overlay that is actually built into these videos that's captured by the geometry train hardware, and you'll see things like current speed, the maximum permitted speed, the last interlocking you passed, the class of the track number, the direction the train is facing, like 87 degrees east in this case, the distance between mileposts, the distance the train has traveled in feet from the last milepost, latitude, longitude coordinates, everything. So it's super, super useful, and we will be referencing it. You'll get to see some of this stuff. It's pretty freaking sweet. All right, so let's get into laying this curve. We've done this first curve a couple times already. At least I have, and you may have seen it in the stream a couple of days ago. So let's go into the charts. 1.98 degrees for the curve. We're going to plug that in here. 1.98 is 882.1. Great. Go into the game. We're going to turn on the Google Maps overlay. Oh, another thing I wanted to point out is I adjusted some of the track rule parameters for like speeds and how the spirals are going to generate. So I did a little bit of tweaking there. I think passenger, I upped it from, what was the default? I think I went from 90 to 110, so we should get some longer spirals when using the passenger preset. And I think I upped freight from 70 to 85 or something like that. So we're going to get some longer spirals, and we'll see how that works out. I'm hoping it works out nicely. Anyway, so 882.1 is the curvature value we're going to look for, and we figured out last time that right about at this point is where the track goes from tangent to spiral. Oh, you can already see that the changes I made, it's taking longer to get into the spiral with the passenger preset. So let's give the freight preset a try. And I bet this one is going to be a little bit more severe. Oh yeah. Much, much, much shorter spiral than what I was expecting. Alright. Let's just go up to that point. Still looks pretty good though. It's manageable. Let's see if we can make it work. I might do some more of that advanced track rule editing in the future to get some more desirable results for some of these curves. Anyway, so we're looking at 882.1. Almost there. 882. Right around there. And that's curving too quickly. So I'm going to try using the passenger preset and start the curve a little bit further back. So it's really cool. You can play around with these values in the track rule and then get vastly different results. Actually, this one looks pretty decent. Not bad. Not bad at all, but still way too much. So we're going to stick with freight. We're going to go, let's do 21 meter tangent. And again, 882.1. A lot of this is just going to be repetition, guys. Like I mentioned in that last stream, ad nauseum. Almost there. Let's do 31. I mean, these are 60-mile-an-hour curves. They are rather sharp curves. They're not your normal high-speed curve. So once we get past this area, then we're going to start using that passenger and mainline presets. 82.1 approximately. So I'm getting asked the question, how much of your work on this route will be broadcasted live, all or some? So I made a post in the Dovetail Games forums that I said I will try to, or I want to, stream as much of my work on this route completely live. I think it's a good thing. It gets the community engaged. They get to see the latest progress. They get to ask questions in case they have questions about route development. So I think it's good for everybody. My only thing is I don't like to keep people waiting too much, you know? I found a good one there. So a lot of this stuff is trial and error. Takes a lot of time to get results. So it might bore some people. But that's why it's always there in case you want to go back and watch it. So let's try to figure out the length of this main curve. 428. Let's just go with 430 to start. Oops, shit. it deselected it for me. Actually, I'm going to do a little trick here. I'm going to first lay 300 even, and now I'll do 130. That way I don't have to keep zooming the camera back and forth, back and forth. I already have a predetermined set already laid. 130. So that would be 430 total. Alright, so now if I go down here, it's not enough. So that last bit, I'm going to take away, and we got to add a little bit more. So instead of 130, I'll do like 140. Phil is saying you might want to encourage the use of point of curvature and point of tangent. Yeah. Yep. So I'll explain all that in a little bit. Those are more engineering terms. I mean, I'm using the term tangent pretty frequently, which in itself is an engineering term when it comes to this. 140 is too much. Let's try 134. Ooh, we're almost there. Almost there. But that's a little too much. Let's do, I don't know, 132.7. Oops. What the hell happened there? It's glitched out on me. Just let me reselect it, make sure I choose freight. $32.7. Ooh. That looks really nice. Almost. It's a little too much. Let's do 132.3. And I think that will be the ticket. On really, really, really long tangents after a curve, like 10 miles, you have to get that measurement absolutely perfect. Absolutely perfect. Otherwise, it's completely screwed up. We've got a lot of leeway because this is a rather short tangent. I nailed it. That looks good. All right, great. So we're going to end that right about here. Actually, I can fix that a little bit more. Let's go 132 even. I'm a bit of a perfectionist, and it'll just take a moment. 132 even. And then I'll look at the chat, because I've been seeing some stuff come in. Just want to get to the point where we were yesterday. And then I'll save, too, and look at chat. Okay, great. That looks wonderful. Excellent. So let me just F2 it while that does its thing. Pixelade saying that he's learned a lot with the editor. Thank you. If you got any questions throughout this, just let me know. Just a random question, but how do you get good quality Srtm terrain? So you got to do your research. I go on the United States Geological Survey website, the USGS. They have a whole catalog of different types of terrain that you can pull, and I think you can pull some void-filled, really high-resolution Srtm terrain data. When I was using the TrainSim World editor, I actually made a tutorial, like an in-house tutorial, obviously not a public one, to get terrain data from the USGS and import it into the TrainSim World editor. The same type of terrain data can be brought into this. So, yeah, just look up the USGS website. I think on the root post I made in the content creation section of the Dovetail Games forums, I made somebody asked a similar question, and I directed them to a USGS website. So, yeah, take a look at that. Okay, so we're saved. We are done with that curve, but I just want to make sure the welds are good. We have a weld there, and we've got a weld there. We are all set. We are ready to get into this next curve. So this is where I screwed up yesterday. Not yesterday, 2 days ago, the last stream. And I really, really, really apologize for this. But it's an error in the track docs, not mine. Kinda not mine. Anyway, So we thought that this 2.03 degrees, here, let me just draw this out. We thought that this 2.03 degrees right here on the charts was that next curve. But as I was looking at the charts, I thought, well, surely that can't be the whole curve. But it must be, because there's this gap right here. There's this gap right there. So that must be the end of the curve, and then this is the second curve, right? Turned out to be wrong. This is that entire curve. And for some reason, they have this small break represented that normally is representative of a tangent, a straight piece of track. But instead, this is the entire curve. The next curve, the one that I kept screwing up on, was like, this is too shallow of a curve, and it's asking me to make it tighter. That's this curve right here, 1.03 degrees, that comes right after. And you can see there it's a reverse curve. Here, let me zoom in a little bit more. That little bit of the last curve right there is almost perfectly butted against this next curve. There's not much of a tangent between these two curves. Anyway, so instead of 1.97 degrees for that shallower curve, it's actually 1.03 degrees, which makes a lot more sense. And we're gonna get that right. So let me just erase these notes. I love that in Microsoft Edge, you can open up a PDF and then have all these little tools available to use. I think it's really cool. All right, so let's get back in here. So this is actually a compound curve, and by a compound curve, I mean a curve that the main curve has multiple different radius of curvature values. So this one doesn't change much. It's 2.03 degrees to start, and then it shallows out a little bit to 1.97 degrees. I don't know if it's going to really matter all that much if we try to get to that level of realism, but we can certainly try. Based on where this second main curve starts, it seems like it's right before this signal bridge that is for tracks 1 and tracks alpha for bay interlocking. So we can try to approximate it, but I wouldn't get too crazy. Anyway, 2.03 degrees is 860.3 in meters. So now the first step is to find the start of the curve. So we're going to use the same freight preset. What did I say, 860.3? Yeah. I think we're going to have to go up a little bit, but we'll give it a shot. We'll give it a shot. Out here. 860.3. All right. So I didn't go enough. It's curving too much. So we have to go up a little bit further. I'm going to remember this value. 47.6. Actually, that seems too much. Let's just try 40 even. It may look a little off right now. It might work out, though. It could just be errors in the Google Maps overlay. Oh, that's the other thing I wanted to show you guys in a little bit. Let me just do this. Yeah, that's too much. So 40 is too much. All right, before I get into fixing this, I mentioned in the stream 2 days ago that there's a little thing down here in the bottom left called route markers. I'm sure you guys have noticed it if you played around the editor, and a lot of people have no idea what it does. What you can do is you can take a KML file that you take out of Google Earth, and portions of it can be converted into a file format that the game can overlay on the terrain. Ooh, train going by my house now. Things are regional. Anyway, I did the liberty of converting my Google Earth project, and just for track 3's path, brought it into the game. So if you tick this, see that red line? It's very, very, very faint. It's kind of too bad that you can't increase the thickness, and as you get closer, it kind of like clips away and disappears. But if you find areas of the Google Maps overlay that are like cut off, sliced in a weird way to where you can't figure out exactly where the track is going and you got to make weird compensations, you can plot out your tracks beforehand in Google Earth and then export it to KML. And then using TS tools, you can actually convert it into a series marker that the game understands. And you load that series marker into the root and you just toggle root markers on and off and you got that red line. Or whatever color you decide you want it to be. You just can't increase the thickness, which I think is stupid. Anyway, I guess I could keep that toggled for now. It's fine. You're jealous of me living that close to the corridor? Yeah, my front door is 75 feet from the frickin' tracks. It's insane. Shakes the house sometimes. Something fierce. Anyway, so we determined that 40 was too much. Let's go with 32. $860. It's gonna be crazy when that new Acela ends up going by my house. I think it's gonna be going at least 160 miles an hour. Alright, so this is too much as well. What was that last value I did? 32? Yeah, 32. Let's try 28. Well, this looks promising. 860. If we ever get the Train Sim World Editor, I will tell you 100% that the track laying is quite a bit better. The tools are just so much better. 860.3. So, here, remember I mentioned those signals and how, like, on the charts right beforehand, it kind of showed it shallowing out a little bit? That actually may come into play. Let me do that now, and I'll show you how to do a compound curve with easements. 1.97, so 886. Okay. So 860 into 886. So probably like right at this cat pole, I'll start my transition. So you lay the track, and then where you want it to start changing, you kind of like move your mouse off to the right, and you'll start seeing much higher values. So what did I say? 886. It's actually a really fine adjustment. Ooh. That's not good. Let me perhaps increase this to passenger. There we go, 886. It wasn't enough room for the transition. 886. Okay. Now my constant rate of curvature will be that 886, and that actually looks pretty good. But not good enough. Let's try doing that transition with mainline preset instead. And that's giving me 902, which is fairly close. Let's just go with that. Let's see how that looks. Oh, yeah, that worked out. Alright, let me switch back to freight. That's pretty good. Nice. Alright, good. Now I just gotta remember this value. And then we'll finish this curve up. So, Phil, I'm thinking that this reverse curve at Bay doesn't abide by that 100 meter, I mean not 100 meter, 100 feet, 30 meter rule for reverse curves. Hence why the speed is probably so slow here. This is all 60 miles an hour. I don't know why they did this. Anyway, 323. It just seems like it goes right back into a curve, which it very well might. Now let's take a look at this. It looks good to me. All right. But we're gonna redo this real quick. Cuz Just want to make sure these welds get in the right spots. But at least we're on the right course. I'm just gonna do this real quick. Alright, so where's the start of my curve? Right here. Split, 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 weld, 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 weld. Let me just do a quick save. Nothing new in chat. Let's take a sip of my tea. So this is where it starts to get really, really interesting. So now that we know how track 3 is going to kind of behave, and we've got the rest of these curves started, we're just going to lay track 1. I mean, sorry, one track 3 for now. Dave says curves at Bay are tracks 2 and 3 are 60, 1 is 50. Okay, yeah. But this one track that I've been focusing on, track 3, is 60. So, good. So let's just focus on track 3 for the moment, because once you get right around here, the tracks start doing some behavior of their own, to where you need to start treating the tracks independently. And don't worry, we will be able to rejoin them at a later time. Alright, sweet. So, just like last time, we'll get it back to this point. It is set to mainline. We will... Actually, let me do passenger. Screw it. 886 is our adjustment, because this is a compound curve. Maintain that radius. Alright, so it's still curving a little too much. So what that means is I'm going to cut back this part of the main curve and then start shallowing out even sooner. Yeah, compound curves are a bitch. They're kind of annoying. Still a little bit too early. And it's hard to tell with these charts. I've had other geometry charts that kind of clearly show, like, even how long the spirals are, which is really cool, seeing how long the spiral is. Unfortunately, I don't have any documents that are that granular anymore. Not for this section, and not ones that are up to date. That looks good. That looks nice. So we'll switch back to the freight preset to get that spiral out. That looks good. Just going to remember this value. 402.7. Okay. Does that continue pretty straight? Yeah. Actually, 402.7 is a little much. Do 399. Yeah, something like that. That's good. It truly is a reverse curve. Alright. So, we're going to continue still just doing track 3 for here. And now that I properly understand where this curve is on the track charts, we'll be able to do it accurately. And who knows, maybe we'll have to adjust this curve that we just laid in order to make sure we have the right tangent size and everything going into this next curve. But for now, let me change this back to a freight preset. And we know from looking at the charts, and we can actually move down to this next page now, 1.03 degrees of curvature. All right, so that's our next value that we're going to plug in here. Let's get rid of these. 1.03, 1695. All right, that's good. So let's start out with a 10-meter tangent, and we'll give this a shot. 1695. The higher the number, the more shallow the curve. Just so you know. 1695, approximately. It doesn't have to be perfect. Ooh, I got that pretty damn close. Except it's curving a little bit too much, which means our tangent isn't long enough. So, what was my tangent length before? 10? I'm going to try 15 now. Make sure I have my freight setting checked. 15 might be too much, but we'll give it a shot. 1695, correct? Yep, 1695. That is a thing of beauty. Look at that. That is gorgeous. Okay, great. Before I do anything else, right at each end of this tangent, I'm going to create a weld, because that's the beginning and end of each curve. So that's the end of our curve there, and now we're going into our curve here. This is the spiral. Gonna create a weld here. Perfect. So it is a rather short tangent, like 50-ish feet, something like that. But hey, that's just the way it is around here, I guess. Anyway, let's get back in here and we'll try to figure out how far our main curve should be here, because according to the track charts, it is just a normal horizontal curve. It's not a compound curve. And then we'll take a look at that geometry train footage. So let's start out with 95. Let's see where 95 takes us. Not enough. So let's try 104.8. Yeah, just something a lot bigger. Ooh, still not enough. You can kind of get a gauge for where it's going to go, because you can see the straight yellow lines in the distance, kind of where they intersect with that red line that I placed earlier using route markers. So 105 isn't enough. Let's try 110. It's looking a lot better, but it's still not enough. Let's do 113. 113.5, I just did. Okay. That's looking a lot better. Let's see where that gets us. Oh my god. Still not enough. Almost there. Almost there, guys. 114. Okay. Give that a shot. Now this goes straight just a little ways, and then it'll curve off again, and it's still not enough. Alright, let's try 115. It looks like it's good at some parts, but then it veers off at other parts, and that's just the inaccuracies of the Google Maps overlay. As long as you know it's straight track and that it lines up where it starts curving again, you're good. Do 115.4. Now that's really nice. That's really good. We're going to stick with that. Alright, so I'm going to make sure that my weld is good down there. Actually, that's a good spot for a weld, too. Wait, is it? No, I'm going to have a weld on that junction, so let me pull this track back a little bit. Alright. And I'll create my weld manually. Let's go up to this point. This is just planning ahead, because whenever you have a junction, you're going to have a weld. So I'm planning on having a weld here. It auto-generated one just past there, so that was not desirable. After this curve comes to its completion, right at this point, we're going to have a weld. You always want to have your curves isolated by welds on each side. Do a quick save, because I haven't saved for a while. Metro North Foamer says, I never thought root work would be this exhausting. You get used to it, dude. You really do get used to it. I don't know if it's necessarily exhausting. I think tedious, and it's meticulous work, and you have to have a really good eye for attention to detail and just be patient. Pixelade says, I really hope a PayPal or some sort of donation page. Yeah, we were talking about that. That'll be up to Evan, because he's the lead of the project. I'd love to accept donations if people were really into the project, but that's completely up to him. So why are welds avoided so much? Alright, so I talked about this in my stream the other day. For every weld you have, it creates a gradient adjustment point. So whenever you go to adjust the elevation of your track, whenever you have a weld, that's an automatic gradient adjustment point. And trying to adjust track elevation on a weld can get really fickle. Sometimes the track will separate and be kind of glitchy, and you gotta snap it back into place. And if you have tons of welds, that becomes a lot of added time. So by taking your time and reducing the number of welds as you lay track, like right now, I only have welds at the beginnings and ends of each curve. That's the only spot you'll ever find a weld in my work right now. It just saves you so much more headache later. I know there's going to be a weld here when we make that switch. But we'll get to that when we get to that. And there's going to be a weld at the beginning of this curve, wherever that is. We'll figure that out in a moment. Alright, so let me save, and we'll take a look at this next curve. I think I saw where it is. Oh, no, we'll look at the geometry train footage next. I've been kind of starving you guys out on that one. Alright, so let this save, and then I'll tab. Alrighty. So, this is the geometry train footage. I had previously explained to everybody what all this is. We'll just take a quick glance through it. This is where we started laying track at the beginning of the stream. This is that 1.98 degree curve right around milepost 93. And it's a constant curve. Now, sometimes during development, I'll speed up the footage, and when you have footage that's sped up, you can more easily see deviations in track curvature. So like for this next curve that's coming up, I know that somewhere before the signals for track 1 and A for bay interlocking, the curve shallows out a little bit. So using this, I could figure out where that actually happens, and then more accurately make my compound curve. This is also really useful for figuring out where a curve starts. So this is the second curve that we just laid. And there's those two signals over there for tracks 1 and alpha for bay interlocking. Little track crew here. And here's the reverse curve that we just laid at bay. So you can see, I'm going to pause it, how there's not much of a tangent there. We still have our spiral, and like right about here is our tangent, and that's not very long at all. It's definitely not 100 feet. It's a 7-hour long video, Pixelade. It's insane. This Washington to Philadelphia portion is an hour and 45 minutes on its own. Washington to Philadelphia, that's what this project is. I mean, we're building off of the Washington to Baltimore route that I laid the track for, that Dovetail Games just released in December. So yeah, this project, I guess you could say, is Baltimore to Philadelphia. Oops. And here's that other curve that we just laid, and now we're getting into this straightaway, where the track speed picks up to, I believe, 110. Yeah, 110. You can see the maximum permitted speed up here in the the top. Alright, so I like using this footage to figure out exactly where the curve is going to start. Yeah, Phil, it is a substandard tangent. That's why when you were saying 100 feet yesterday, I knew that, yeah, the standard is 100 feet, but it's just not the case here. Anyway, I'll count cat poles in order to figure out kind of where the curve will start. So from this switch, I'll count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and it looks like just before the 6th pole is where I start to see the spiral. So I'll go back into game, and I've got the overlay, and I will... Where's the switch? Did I go over it? Oh, yeah. Alright, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, just before the 6th. So I'm going to cut this back a little bit and just guess right about here is where my spiral starts for this next curve. Yeah, it's all 60 miles an hour. You could go quicker through it, I believe, but yeah. Anyway. Track charts. Let's get rid of that. It's this curve right here, 0.28 degrees of curvature. And it's not that long of a curve either, about the same length as the last one we did. So we'll hop back in the Excel spreadsheet. 0.28 is 6237. Quite a shallow curve. 6237. I'm going to try using the mainline preset for this. It might be too much, so I might go down to the passenger, but let's give it a shot. 6237. I got to get a better memory for these numbers. 6237. It's close enough. Oh, that looks pretty good, actually. And now we can go back to the video and see approximate where the curve ends and see if we're getting it right. He's asking what part of the route we're working on right now. This is right around milepost 91, 92. Bay interlocking, river interlocking, point interlocking, around there. Oh, there's a huge CSX and Norfolk Southern Freight Yard right around here too. I forget the name of the yard though. Bayview or something like that, I forget. Alright, so 6, 7, 8.5. Okay. So I might be making this curve a little too long. Let's try though. So 6, 7, 8.5. Oh no, that looks right. The curve would end right about here. Let's give that a shot. 175 main curve length. Oh wow, did we just get it first try? We might have. That looks really good. Let me take a look at that. That looks really, really good. Nice. We may have just gotten that first try. Which I typically don't like to do, getting it first try, but yeah. I gotta relay it anyway to make this weld proper. But anyway, it was, this is where I would write something down. I'm just gonna open Notepad. Actually, I'll remember that. You guys remember this for me. The spiral is 43.8, and the main is 175. Alright. Actually, I don't need to remember the spiral, because I can just create my weld right here. 43.8 and then 175. And then that's this curve. That was pretty easy. Okay. So now once I lay this tangent, let's go right there. And then I'll put this other weld down for the other end of the curve. Nice. Really, really nice. Do a quick save and look at the chat. All right. Oh, you live near Zoo Interlocking. Well, that's towards the other end of the route. We're like 91 miles away from there right now. You live behind the corridor in Edgewood, Maryland, Pixelade? Nice. I live, like I said before, like 75 feet from 150-mile-an-hour territory in Davisville, Rhode Island. Alright, so let's take a look at the footage now. And this is a bit of a conundrum that I had to work through a couple of times in Washington, Baltimore when I was doing the track. And if you guys open up the route sometime in the future, you'll notice this. So at Landover Interlocking, you have crossovers on the 100-mile-per-hour curve there. Crossovers and curves and super elevation don't really work well in this game. They work awesome in Train Sim World Editor. Oh my god, it works really good. But in this game, it works like shit. So, you'll notice there's a couple curves. I know there's one near BWI, I think. Yeah, BWI. That is super elevated and has a crossover going through it, but there's no bump if you're on the main line. If you try to go on the freight line next to it, you're going to get thrown around like no tomorrow. At Landover, you have crossovers on a curve that's supposed to be super elevated, but I can't super elevate it because if you go on the crossover, the train will get thrown around like crazy. So what I had to do is not super elevate that curve at all at Landover. So you'll notice next time you play Washington to Baltimore, go through Landover Interlocking, you'll notice that the curves are not super elevated, but it's still a nice smooth ride. Fortunately, it's still a nice smooth ride. But that was one thing I ran into when developing that route. So you can see right here, the spiral is actually tied together with this switch. I'm still going to super elevate this curve because you're never going to use that switch for anything. That's just some, I don't know, it doesn't even look like it's in use anymore, to be honest. Some short little freight spur or something, I don't know. So I wouldn't worry about something like this because the focus of the route is the main line, not that little freight thing. So I would definitely super elevate this curve. The side effect is if you were coming onto or off of that freight thing right there, you would get bumped around considerably. This footage is from 2015. Are you saying that that switch is gone now? It could be, because I don't have... Well, no. Actually, I'm looking at the Google Maps imagery right now, and it's still there. They even installed PTC transponders on there. Yeah, Pixelate. I did the super elevation all myself for DC to Baltimore. I had to do some custom tweaks on the track rule in order to make the super elevation what it is, and Dovetail Games accepted it. They pretty much let me do whatever I wanted, which was awesome. They're cool guys to work for. They got a good team over there. Anyway, so we know that this switch is somewhere in the spiral. So I'm going to just assume that the track curve is starting right here, the point of curvature. That's an engineering term, also known as tangent to spiral. If you ever look at engineering charts for stuff like this, in spiral curvature, it's pretty interesting stuff. Anyway, if I open up the track charts again, here, let's erase that because we are on to 69.69 degrees of curvature. Pretty short curve too, about the same as the past two. Throw that in there, 0.69. 25.31. I'm also going to use the mainline preset because that worked out well last time. 25.31. Gotta get better at remembering numbers. 25.31. But it looks like I might have to use the passenger preset. Yep. Not curving fast enough, unfortunately. Pretty loud truck just went by. 25.31. This is looking pretty good. Oh, but no, it's not curving quickly enough still. which means that the curve actually starts a little bit further back. Okay. I'll slice this back a little bit more. I'll play that game. $25.31. I know the switch is in the spiral, so I want to maintain that element of realism. Oh, that's perfect. Look at that. That's beautiful. Right in the line. Alright. So now, let's look back at the footage and figure out where this curve ends, because we go kind of right into another curve right after. So I'm going to count cat poles again from the point of switch. So we've got 1, oh, and then the bridge. That's under the bridge. Alright, so... Wait, what? Is that right? That looks like a really long curve. Whatever. From the bridge. 1, 2, 3, 4. This is a compound curve. Again. So, here, let me show you. This is going to be interesting. So it looks like this is a tangent, right? An area where one curve ends, another curve begins. This is what we ran into before. It's not. Because we're just looking at the footage now and it confirms that it's not. That curve would have ended already, but the curve is still continuing. So it starts out sharper and then gets more shallow. We need to figure out where it starts getting more shallow. Alright, so let's look at this footage a couple times. I can see it already. Right after the bridge. Here, I'll show it to you guys again. I'll show it to you guys a couple more times, actually. Right about here. Look at the track in the distance, maybe like 2 or 3 cat poles down. You'll start to see it get a lot more shallow, right? See that? Now we're into that new, more shallow curvature. I'll do it one more time. Can you see that? All right. So now I need to figure out like exactly where that transition starts. I know that under the bridge I'm good. I think it's 1 to 1.5 cat poles past the bridge is where I need to start worrying about that transition. All right. So up until that point, though, we are going to have a curvature of 25.31. All right. So like right about here is where I noticed it changing. And I'm going to write down this value on my phone because these can get really tricky. This can end up being a lot of numbers you have to remember. With a compound curve, that is. So I'll do 191.7. All right. Enter. Great. So now we're going to change to that new value. So that new value is 0.26. So Henry, this video is called... it doesn't really have a name per se, but it's geometry train footage from an Acela Express. 0.26. I stripped out a lot of the elements that make it identifiable, so I could show it. 6716. Still a really great resource when used properly. 6716. All right, so let's give that a shot. I'm going to now change the curve radius to 6716. And if I want a longer transition, I'll change it from passenger to mainline preset, but passenger seems to be working okay right now. 6716. That's good. And now, if I try to continue laying my track, you can see it's kind of curving. It's not curving enough, which likely means I didn't lay enough of that sharper section before I transitioned. So, this 197 excuse me, 191.7 was not long enough. So now I'm going to go back. And instead, I'm going to do something kind of drastic. I'll do like 215. So I'm going to write that down in my phone. Because, like I said, a lot of numbers to remember with this bad boy. 215.5. Now, what number? 6716. So many numbers. My brain hurts. 6716. Now, if I go to continue laying, look at that. It follows it much better, but it's still not curving enough. Alright, we're almost there. Let's go to 230. 230 meters on that main curve. I knew it was somewhere between these cap holes, so I'm not far out of the realm of possibility yet. $67. Yeah, right around there. Look at that. It's a lot better, but it's still not enough. Wait a minute. Is there another piece to this that I'm not aware of? No, there's definitely a tangent there afterward, because that's another curve. That's another thing with interpreting these charts. If the rectangle for the curve is below the line, that indicates one direction. If it's on top of the line, that indicates another direction. So we're still dealing with the same curve here. It's just not behaving the way we would expect. It's curving nicely up to that point. Let me take a little bit of creative liberty and let me try decreasing. Make it a little sharper of a curve. So instead of 6716, maybe I'll go like 6600. Ooh, see, that's a little too much. But it ends up coming together later on, which is interesting. This is a tough one. This is definitely a tough one. So this is where I'm going to turn off the overlay and trust that route marker, that red line that I laid in Google Earth. All right, that's where I'm going to trust that. So I think 230 might be a little too much. Let's cut that back, so maybe not that far back. Do like there. All right. This is going to require a lot of trial and error. 6660. So now I can kind of see that line is being followed, but then it's just not being followed anymore. It's almost like it's getting sharper. Let's look at the footage. Let's look at the footage. See if I notice a change in curvature. A slight one. Oh, wait a minute. No way. It is. It's a triple compound curve. There is no tangent. There's no tangent there. So the track docs fooled me again. They fooled me again. But that other curve isn't represented here. I mean, it's saying, yeah, one second, let me zoom out of this. Because in the video, we are... Where's the signal bridge? Right here. Is that for this direction? Is that the interlocking limits for where we're headed? Yeah, that's a clear signal I can see. And then a stop signal. Okay. So, on the charts, right here, I'll draw a line. Right here is where we are. That signal bridge is where we are. And then the curve ends in the middle of the interlocking. But what's not being shown is that change in curvature. I'm seeing another change of curvature that's not represented on the track chart. Let me look again. No, the track notes, they're not out of date. I mean, these are from 2020. But, I don't know. It just doesn't seem as accurate as it used to be. I don't know. It's weird. Let me just look at that one more time, and then I'll try to tackle this. So we definitely do start out sharp here. It seems like right around the signals it gets a little bit sharper. I don't know. That's just me. That's just me. Anyway, I can turn back on the overlay. It is very, very subtle, Phil, and I wouldn't be surprised if it wasn't represented on the charts. I've had older charts from like 2004, not of this section, but of every other section of the corridor, that got really granular with like every little freaking change. So anyway, oop, there's an Acela going by. You can hear that one. Nice. Yeah, I was going 150. All right. So we have a 219 main curve, and then we'll go into the compound. I mean, yeah, the second part of the curve, which, what was the curvature value? 6716. Did you guys hear that train? 6716. Yeah, it was loud. Yes, it was. Alright. I feel like I'm curving this a little too much. I do. And because I can't trust the number in the track document, I do have to take some creative liberty here. So instead of 6716, I feel it's got to be a little bit sharper. I'm going to go with 6400 to start. 6419, that's fine. Not sharp enough. So now I'll go with 6187. Yeah, I mean, it's almost certainly changing again. I don't get it. It's so weird. I mean, it holds true up until like this point before the signals, and then it gets a little sharper. All right, let's go with it. Oh, another thing, is track. Yeah, this track is rejoined parallel to this one at this point, so we're gonna have to take that into account too. Oh, that's a mess. All right, I'm just gonna. I can't spend too much time on this curve because I can't trust the charts. So right about, can't trust the charts wholly, anyway. Right about there, and then it's going to get a little bit sharper. So more like 5718, does that look right? Nope, not sharp enough. And it could be the game just not playing nice. The game sometimes just doesn't play nice. Not sharp enough. Yeah, there's something wrong. 53. Let's try 5,000. Which is still really shallow, by the way. And anyway, doing this is going to add more super elevation. Okay, we're almost there. 5,000 was a little too low. What was my last one? Let me do 5,100. And then I'll look at chat. Try 5,194. That one looks pretty good. Let's see how that turns out. Where's the curve end? Yeah, right before the switch, right? Still a little bit too sharp. So let's do 5,300. This is a pain in my butt. 5,300. But this is what track laying is. I mean, this is what I dealt with for a lot of the Washington to Baltimore stuff. Maybe not to this degree because a lot of the curves weren't like compound ones like this. This doesn't feel right. It feels like this should be more constant and I shouldn't have to make all these corrections. Alright, here's what I'm going to do. For now, I'm going to leave this one alone. I'm going to go back and let's take care of track number 2. Because I don't want to get too caught up into this one right now. So let that save. Alright. Let's head back over to Bay. Yeah, I might revisit this a little bit later on. Can't go too crazy with it. Alright. So, let's take a look at track 2. And track 2 starts to take a behavior of its own. Right about here at the bridge, you can see clearly that you get a lot of distance between tracks 3 and 2 just after the bridge. And we can look at the video to confirm this. So we get into that curve. And if you look at the track separation between 3 and 2 just after the bridge, you should notice it. Oh yeah, it's very apparent. It's already starting to separate big time. Alright, so we're going to do the same thing. We're going to do the same radius of curvature for the main curve up to that point, and then we're going to change the radius to whatever the track charts say. So let's get, I don't know, maybe like one sec. Actually, it looks like it starts to curve off. The transition starts like right at the signal bridge. Okay, so 291. Let's see how that looks. That looks really close. Why does that look so close? It is close. Why are they getting closer? Oh, because I had already done the transition on this one to be more shallow, so this one's getting closer. I get it. Alright, let me see where I did that transition. Right at this point is where I did that transition. So I'm going to do the same thing. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to place an object, any object, to denote... Come on, if I can find a good object. Fine, I'll just put it there. Alright, so it's that same radius all the way up until that point. and then it transitions to 886 with the passenger preset. Actually, let's consult the track charts first. So we have to actually go back to this previous page. So this curve actually curves at 1.94. I actually might just make this its own thing and not just... Yeah, let's make this its own thing. Because it's going to do its own thing anyway. 1.94, 900 even. Nice. Let's get rid of this. Let's get rid of that. Let's get rid of that. Let's get rid of this. And now we're going to start a new curve. Actually, I have to do... What's the preset here? Freight? Yeah, freight. Freight preset 900 degree of curvature. I don't know if that's going to be an issue, but we'll find out very shortly. Oh yeah. It's not sharp enough. Which likely means that I have to start that curve in a different spot. If I look at the charts, it shows that the curve starts later. That doesn't make any sense. That doesn't make any sense at all. 1.94. If anything, I think that curve would start a little bit later. I mean earlier, not later. Just for shits and giggles, let me try this. Oops. I only want to do 900. 900. Ooh. Way too drastic. So it doesn't start in the exact same spot, but it's not that far back. So let's just do like a happy medium. Like right here. This is not your typical curve, guys. Believe me. You're not going to have to do this for every curve. This is very atypical. 900. Oh, that looks a lot nicer. A lot nicer. A lot nicer. Great. So now, the charts mention that it transitions right at the signal bridge. So I kind of line up the text for signal bridge to where it curves. 1.81. So it is getting a little sharper, which is interesting to me. Because it's meant to separate from track 3, not get closer to it. Let's look at the next page. Maybe the next page has some secret. 0.79. Alright. What did that say? It was 1.81? Yeah, 1.81. Let me throw that into the calculator. Let's see how this will work. 965. 965. Okay. So at the signal bridge, that's right here. Let's just change that to 965. Or is it? Yeah, 965. Oh, I'm sorry, I was misthinking. 1.81 is a more shallow curve than 1.94. Oh my god. Sorry, my brain stopped working for a minute. Yes, this is making sense now. 965. I'm a doofus, guys. It's okay. I got confuzzled. 965, okay. And I promise I haven't been drinking much. Okay, so that didn't work. That's way too shallow. Which likely means I started that transition late. Let's go like 25 further. 33 is fine. Now we'll change it to 965. See how that works now. Better, but not there yet. So 33 wasn't enough. Let's try 60. Now 965. It's a lot better. Still not there. It's starting to not line up again too, which is a little concerning. Track spacing is good though. From what I can discern, track spacing is good. Maybe getting a little bit close there. Okay. Not bad. Trying to think what I could do. It's not bad. No, I'm okay with that. So instead of going 60, let's go 75? Yeah, I don't know, it's just not curving enough here for my liking. But that's okay. You can't ever get this perfect, guys. Especially with the inaccuracies that are present in the Google Maps imagery. Now, the charts said before that the curve started a little bit later. We could try that, but with a slightly sharper curve. Than 900, because 900, that number's just not working out. Just go like 5. Yeah, do that. Change this to freight. Instead of that, let's do a slightly sharper number. Let's do like 850. Or 870, that's fine. That number's looking a lot better. Oh yeah. Oh god, yeah. Yep. Let's do that. Take that 350, and now we'll go... Let me take a look at that track spacing now. Much nicer, in my opinion. Much nicer. So now we'll go to 965. Imagine I get this on the first try, that would be fucking epic. But I won't. Which likely means that I made that main curve a little bit too long. So I'm just going to cut that back a little bit. Try again. Change that to freight. 965. Cut it back a little bit more. Maybe like twice the amount I did last time. Right here. Termo, the sleepers are way too wide. Oh, you mean like compared to real life? Yeah, I know. We can always swap out the Trek model later on. That's easy enough to mod in. Ooh, we're almost there. Let me try cutting this back a little bit more. Just playing around with the placement a little bit to get the desired results. Ooh, so close. cut it back a little bit more drastically. And this is starting to match up to where I saw the transition happen on the track charts. The track charts mentioned like right around the signal bridge, and that's where we're ending up right now, which is kind of funny. The numbers on the chart may not always be right. Oh, look at that. That is gorgeous. Sweet. I should be able to make that land nicely. 243. Actually, let's go a little bit more. 250 even. Yeah, there's a reverse curve here too. It's pretty drastic. Even less of a tangent than that other curve. Okay. So now we're here. But first, let me make sure my welds are good, because I've placed everything nicely to make sure the welds are good, and they're not. So I'm just going to fix this really quick. Let me write these values down on my phone so I don't forget them. 301.4 for this main curve after the spiral. And then 7.2 to get a radius of 965.1. And then 250. Just got to make sure the welds are in the right spots before we continue. All right. So I will just do a split here and then weld it. This curve, the tangents are starting to curve at slightly different points. That's one of the things we figured out we had to do because of the situation. All right, change that to freight. 301.4. Maybe right after the signal bridge, I think. 301.4. Now we're going to change to 965.1. Oh, that is really fickle. Okay. And now take this for 250. And then lay it, and then we'll be good. Great. And that looks like it curves a little too much. So instead of 250, let me do like 247. And then it looks like we'll be good. I hope. 247. You can sometimes tell when it's curving a little too much. Yeah, that looks nice. Great. And then I'll save. Then I'll make sure that other weld gets in there. Just looking at the chat real quick. Pixelade says, with how stressful this looks, do I sound stressed to you? No. It can be kind of relaxing if you just don't get too hung up on the whole trial and error thing. It is always going to be trial and error. So as long as that doesn't bother you and you're patient, you shouldn't get too stressed. But yeah, I do like to drink when I play and develop in general. I might pour myself another glass in a minute. Wow, so that curve came out like beautifully. If I turn off the overlay, you can see the track centers are really, really nice. They're not getting too close to each other. And then once you get to the signal bridge, the track starts separating, just as we saw. We're following pretty much the precise values in the track charts, which is really, really nice. Pixelade, yes, I do get bothered when it's not perfect. I do. I am somewhat of a perfectionist. But now we can bring this track down with its brother down there. Okay, so now this curve, oh, actually I should have kept that. We're on this curve now, 0.79 degree of curvature. Let's see if we can make that work and kind of make it be parallel and end up where we need it to. 0.79, interesting. 2210. Let's go with the same tangent size. Look, it's kind of crazy how they ended up ending in the same spots. Let's go with a 15-meter tangent. And did I go mainline on this curve? No, I did freight. Okay. $15. I'll make sure to make my weld after if this works. I might need a longer tangent here. And then, what is this, 2210? Yeah, 2210. $21, $22, $11. That's fine. We're testing. Ooh, it's curving too much right off the bat, which means we definitely need a longer tangent. Or I can try a different setting. It might be a longer spiral. Maybe not like mainline long, but I mean we can try. Holy shit. No, that's crazy. Who knows, it might be that though. It might just be an absurdly long spiral. 2210. Okay. If this ends up working, there's no way it ends up working. That is a short main curve if that ends up working. So short, in fact, I can't. The game won't take it. It doesn't want it. Oh my god. Like, the margin of error, I mean, the spacing between these purple lines and the gray line in the easements tool is like so fine that you can't get where you want. Alright, let's try that. 38.4. Oh, so close. So close. That might work. 38.4 is too much. But the curve doesn't look like it goes out that far. So I'm going to use the passenger preset, not the mainline preset. Mainline, the spirals were just way too long. Those spirals are tuned for a 130 mile an hour curve. I think I changed in the track rule. 2210, 2210. Still a pretty long spiral with this passenger preset, but... Alright, so that's where I'm going to need my longer tangent beforehand. Okay. So 15 meters, not long enough. Let's do 25. Probably a bit extreme. Maybe not. You don't know until you try. 2210, 2210. It looks like it's curving a little bit too much still. Maybe not. Little bit too much. Actually, maybe not. Yeah, a little bit too much. So 25 wasn't even long enough for that tangent. Let's go 30. Or 32. Yeah, 32. $22.10, right on the dot. Nailed it. All right. Almost there. Does this curve end after track 3's curve? Let's look at the charts. It does. It does end after track 3's curve. You can see that right here. Actually, I suck at drawing lines. You can see that right here. You have that extra bit. That's track 2's curve. Goes a bit further. So that's how you know you're doing it right, at least. Because the curve is going to end further down. Alright, let's try this. 61.5. I don't think that's going to be enough. Oh god, no. That was not enough. That's going to cut into track 3. But now that I know that I'm good at this point, I'm going to finalize this weld at the end of this curve. Okay. And I'm also going to put my weld here. Okay, great. So 61.5 was not enough. Here, let me do a quick save. Nothing quick about that save, I'll tell you. I don't know what it is. An extremely fast computer, and it normally doesn't take that long to save, but whatever. So 61.5 was not enough. We're using the passenger preset. Should I go with like 70? 70 sounds good. Yeah. All right. Ooh, that's got some promise. Still not enough though. Let's go with 75. Almost there, guys. This curve wasn't that bad. Ooh. Almost there. Yes. Alright. So close. So now I need to figure out... I mean, we're almost there. We still got a little fine-tuning to do. We got to figure out where this curve starts. This next curve, that is. 0.49. I don't know if we can tell from this video where track 2 starts to curve. It's past the switch. It's not curving yet. I'm looking at the track spacing, the track centers. So if the track charts are right, it does start to curve after. So all of this is straight. Like, maybe up to like right here is where it starts to curve. Right about here. If I can throw an object here, just so I can kind of... Yeah, I'll just throw K tower. There you go. Alright, so this isn't curving enough. 74.9... I mean, sorry. 74.8 is not enough. It's almost there. Let's try 75.3. Come on. 75.3. Okay. Bring that up there. Bring this down. Bring this down. So close. Alright. Let's do 75.6, and then we'll be done with that. Or 75.5. And then we'll be good with that. Just a couple small adjustments. Perfect. I'm happy with that. But wait a minute, and then it starts to... Wait, what happens if I continue this straight? It's starting to look a little weird. I mean, it is starting to curve a little bit, but I can't tell exactly where. Is that one long curve? Alright, let me do one... I always say that. One last adjustment. One last adjustment. Let me just fix the damn curve. Oops. I did that wrong. Alright. Let's do like 76. It's not you guys, it's me. I just don't like boring you. Although it's gonna end up being boring anyway, unless I have like some kind of background music or something. But I don't want to get DMCA'd or anything. Oh, there we go. Yeah, that looks good. Cool. So we've got this track up to a pretty good point now. Just doing a quick save. I just gotta figure out now. Pixelate. Thanks, buddy. I appreciate it. I have to figure out where track 2 exactly starts to curve, and that's a pain in the butt. That's a real pain in the butt. It looks like straight. It's got a really long spiral. It looks straight up until like right here, at which point it starts to curve until it meets this track and then starts curving at the same value. Oh, that is a fucking pain. I'm gonna get back to that later because I still want to revisit track 3 in this area later on. I'm really weirded out by what the track charts are saying and what I'm actually getting. So I am going to be looking at all this again. I'm just gonna rip this up. I know that this first sharp part of the curve ends right about here, so I'm gonna keep that. And these two do become parallel again, right at that point. And then track 1 joins in on the mix and becomes parallel again right at that point. And here's some of the tracks that Evan laid. By the way, the reason I'm doing this, I offered to start all this out for Evan. Evan Powers, for those of you who don't know, who weren't watching the stream 2 days ago, is the leader of this project. And I offered my assistance as needed. And I've been helping him get up to par with the track tools and learning how to read the track charts and all that kind of stuff. And he's a busy guy. He's got a bunch of stuff going on with school and personal life stuff. Oh, there's another train going by. Regional this time. So I mean, I like helping out here and there. I had a long weekend, so I figured, hey, why not just live stream some of this shit? Oh yeah, this looks good up to this point. Nice. All right, let's get track 1 over here now. Track 1 is kind of over here doing its own thing entirely. Oh, before I do that though, let me just double check my welds. Oh, you saw it on the Amtrak map? Yeah, it just went by. Those welds look good. Oh shit. This weld needs to be put there. So we got that starting weld, and now I just need to put this weld right here at the end of the curve. Great. Perfect. So now those can be super elevated at any time. Here, I'll just show you really quick. And then you got a nicely super elevated curve. Okay. So, yeah, let me save. Let me just use the restroom really quick. Just a quick break. All right, I'm back. So, do you guys all have the day off for Martin Luther King Jr. Day? I normally have Mondays off anyway because of my work schedule, but yeah, that was the sound of a cork opening. So I am gonna pour myself a drink. I'm drinking some scotch. I like to treat myself once in a while. So Amtrak fan 55, have I ever thought of doing rail fanning videos? Not really. I mean, as much as I like the railroad and everything, I enjoy this kind of stuff, the simulation and infrastructure side of things, a lot more than just watching trains all day. Because, I mean, I live right next to the railroad. I see and hear trains go by all the freaking time. So it does kind of get a little old. Um, anyway, so let's get back to this curve, but this time we're doing it for track 1. Now this one seems to curve at the same point as track 3, which is nice, but has a slightly different curvature value at 1.99. Let me throw that in there. 1.99 is 877. And that's actually not far off from where I have it right now. Let's just go with this and see what it does. And where does it change? That's not very descriptive on where it changes. But it does change to 1.72. So it does shallow out. I just don't know where. Let's just play with it. See what happens. Ooh. Too sharp. Too sharp. Or I need to start it. Let me start it a little bit further ahead. But then I'll do the 877. Gotta make sure those track spacings are in check. You don't want the tracks getting too close together. I've seen that happen sometimes with developers, where they'll let the tracks just get way too close together, like this. Like that. Actually, that's about as close as I would ever let a track get to another track. But I don't want to do that. $877. I'm gonna raise that a little bit. Maybe to like 885. There we go. See how that looks. Oh, that actually looks really good. And then right about this point, it shallows out to that other value of 1015. Now, I don't know exactly where, unfortunately, so I'm just going to have to play with it. So I'll start with 350 length of this, and now I'll do 1015. And see where this takes me. Oh, look at that. That's a peach. Almost right on target. Almost. Actually, I could make that work. But I'm not going to do that. I'm going to increase the length of that main curve by like 10. Make it 360 instead. Just to get that extra little oomph out of it. Screw it, let's do 365. And then 1015. See how that lines up. Aha, just what I wanted. Look at that. That's gorgeous. That's gorgeous. Alright, let's make sure that this curve looks good. I'm gonna have to blow this out really quick just to make sure the weld is in the right spot. But 365.4. 365.4. Nice. Real nice. 365.4 into 1015 into this. Now I just need to figure out where this is going to end. I'm going to start with 157 and see how that looks. And to me, it's actually kind of hard to tell. It looks a little, I don't know how that looks actually. Like it wasn't curved enough to the right. But then again, I don't know where this curve starts. I'm assuming it starts after the crossover. Maybe the video will show me. It's kind of hard to see track 1 from here, though. I'll look at the chat in a second. I know Pixelade's talking. Alright, so I see that crossover. Oh, no, it looks like the curve starts, like, in the crossover. Okay. That kind of sucks. Alright, let me look at the chat. Pixelade says, you might not know the answer to this question since you mentioned you aren't the head of this project, but do you know if the Baltimore to Philadelphia extension will share the same assets as far as scenery, vegetation, foliage? Yeah. I mean, we're going to use everything in... I mean, we're definitely going to use the assets available to us in Washington to Baltimore. That much is a given. We can also use assets from things like New York to New Haven, stuff like that. So yeah, all the stuff that you see in the route will be used this way too. Alright. So I don't think it curved off to the right enough, which means 157 was not long enough for that curve. And we just need to... Oh, wait a minute. Or does that mean it was too sharp? Too much. Let's do 155. Because I want it to veer off to the right a little bit more, so I gotta make it a little bit shorter. And that's still not enough. Let's do 153.5. I think that might be our sweet spot. Oops, freight. I wonder where the spiral's gonna end. It looks like it might end before the switch, which is actually really ideal. Great. That looks good. Really, really nice. So now I'll start this curve right after the switch. Actually, is there another switch there? No, there's not. You just have that one. Great. So our tangent happens to be where the switch is. I love that. Now I'm going to make sure that this weld is good. I think that's the end of the spiral. Yep. I'm just going to double check this curve for all the welds. Look at that. Looks really good. These are all independently laid curves with different radii. But that's the way this is designed in real life. It's a mess. Okay. So, this next curve, if I scroll down to this next page, is 56, or 0.56 degrees of curvature. Let me get rid of this so I can highlight that for you guys. 0.56. And for those of you who don't know, that number, that decimal number below, is the super elevation value in degrees. Or no, not degrees, inches. So the outside rail, in this case, is 5/8 of an inch higher than the inside rail. So it's not that much super elevation, to be honest. Trains with Nick is saying, this is looking good. I'm heartbroken you guys cannot bring the line to Train Sim World 2. There's a possibility that might happen in the future. I've used the editor. I love it. I'd love to create something with it that I could distribute to everybody. It's still on the table. It's not like it can't happen. Okay, it's not like that at all. It's definitely within the realm of possibility for Dovetail Games to reach out to me and say, hey, we want to do a proper Northeast Corridor now for Train Sim World 2. Could happen. And I want to be a part of that. If it does happen. Alright, so 0.56 is 3118. So let's figure that out. I also used the freight preset. Wait, no, I used the freight preset for track 3. I used the passenger preset for track 2. How does this one look? Does this one look really shallow? That's tough. I'm gonna go freight preset. Just because I need that spiral to really kick in quickly. And this is a lower speed curve anyway. This is a 50-mile-per-hour curve as opposed to the other two being 60. I think is what Dave told me. I don't have the employee timetable open right now. Alright. Keep forgetting the number. 3118. Alright. 3118. I gotta figure out a way to set up like a cough button or a burp button or something. Just to make the stream a little bit more professional, because I don't like burping into my microphone. Shit. Oh. Curved too much. Interesting. So I got to... I got a noise gate set up to where it only activates my voice once it reaches a certain point, but yeah. Alright, so I gotta make this tangent a little bit longer than 20. Let's try 24. And then 3118. This is a really short spiral. But I guess that's to be expected. 3418. Ooh. Now that's a little bit too long of a tangent, so it's somewhere in the middle. Somewhere between 20 and 24. So I'm gonna try 21.8. I don't know, it seems like a really arbitrary number, but 21.8. 3118. Ooh, there goes another Acela. Another 150-mile-an-hour train going by. So that looks decent. Let's give that a shot. It's hard to see with this Google Maps imagery. 70... Let's go with 72. Woohoo! Almost. Really almost. And then it starts to curve down here. 72. That was a little much. Okay, so now I'll do 71, and I'll take a quick peek at chat. $70.7 is fine, or whatever. Oh yeah, look at that. It looks good. It's still veering off a little bit, though. Still a little much. Let's just try 70 even. Alright, let's chat Sam. Cactus Juice ASMR. Yeah, my burps are ASMR. That's nice. Yeah, the video, yeah, this whole stream is just consisting of trains going by my house at 150 miles an hour and all that. You can't ever see the train, but you can just hear it. And if I had my webcam on right now, you'd probably like see the vibration as the train went by. It's kind of crazy. It does shake the house sometimes, something fierce. But hey, it keeps the property values low, and I don't mind it, so it's a win-win for me. Does it do a slight curve somewhere down there? If I feel like it does. No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. It doesn't do a correction. Might just be some weird Google Maps shit. Almost got it, though. Let me just make it 69 even. Ooh, 69. Running into that number a couple times today. Yeah, let's stick with that. That looks good. Doesn't have to line up 100%, nor will it ever line up 100%. Alright, so I'll put my weld here. There's my curve end right there. Yeah. Okay. So this curve... Oh wait, I need to put another weld here. So that's the tangent. This is the next curve right here. And it was nice. I was able to get it in after that switch point, so I don't have to worry about super elevation being a problem later on. Okay, great. So now these three main tracks are pretty much in the same spot now. I mean, I extended track 3 a little bit further. Let's try to start bringing this together a little bit more. So you can kind of... I bet a lot of you guys are like, how is he going to get these three tracks back together in parallel? And I do want to show you that. I'd love to be able to get that done before I end the stream today. Because it truly is a sight to behold. A thing of beauty, so they say. Alright, it definitely starts to curve right around here. So the rate of curvature here is 0.29, and it claims to be a constant curve, and it doesn't show these stupid gaps. And 1 degree of super elevation, 1 inch of super elevation, rather. 0.29. Throw that in here. 6022. Yeah, consider properties close to the railroad. That's not really why I purchased this house. It just ended up being in the town I grew up in, so I could be close to family. And cheap. I mean, I could afford it. It wasn't in bad shape. Yeah, it's an older home, but it wasn't in bad shape. It being next to the railroad was just kind of a plus. So 6022. See if I can get this to work. Alright, I gotta curve it earlier. It's not curving quickly enough. Actually, let me try the passenger preset before I cut the track back. No, I gotta cut the track back. Cut it back. Yeah, it's fine. By 20 meters. Let's try the passenger preset again. This kind of sucks because you don't know where your curve is exactly starting, and I don't have the footage for this area. I mean, on this track. Ooh, that's pretty damn close. It was like on track at that, on course at that point. Kinda. And then is it really maintaining that curvature the entire time? Because that would be amazing. But it's not. It can't be maintaining that curvature the whole time. I'm veering too far off to the right. Let me look at the charts. It has, I mean, it's explicitly telling me that it's maintaining that rate of curvature the entire time. All right, let me cut the track back a little bit more. This is where I've been having my problems. This area right here specifically. I mean, the track is clearly not curving here. So to get the... It just doesn't feel right. That's good so far, but it's gonna veer off quick. Yeah. Alright. So I'm thinking that that 0.29 degree number is off. So let's mess around with the possible values. Let's get this back to where we had it, where I think the curve actually starts. And we're going to try a little bit sharper value. I think the curve starts like right here, because I can see the spiral a little bit in the imagery. Yeah, I mean, it could be a compound curve too, but I'm not seeing that in the charts. If I have to, like if I tried slightly sharper curvature values and it doesn't work out, then yeah, I'll make this a compound curve. But I don't want to do that if I don't have to, you know? So instead of 6022 as a value, let's try 5700. That's not working at all. Actually, let me cut this back a little bit. Because the spiral, actually, no, the spiral. Right, let me just do passenger preset then. I swear, it starts here, the curve. It's just a sharper curve than the documentation claims. Yeah, I just gotta cut this curve back a little bit more. Let me cut this tangent back a little bit more. Tell you guys, this is tough, and a lot of people would probably just say screw it and just make something that looks kind of right but isn't actually right. I think that's not going to fly for this project, and I know you guys appreciate that. But you actually get to see now the work that will be going into this. Okay, so this is fine up until that point, and then it takes a sharper turn. So 5700 seems to be a no-go. Let's try 5400. This is getting into weird territory. But it looks like it's paid off. Unbelievable. Off by that much. But it's still not enough. Was that last value I did 5400? Yeah, 5419. Let's go down to 5200. That looks like too much now. What is it? Oh yeah, that's too much. Alright, so let's do that happy medium of like 53. Yeah, Pixelade, you're right. Most of the route is not this complicated, nor was the majority of Washington, Baltimore. One area that was a little bit complex, but honestly not that bad, was right around milepost, what is it, 117? Where track 1 curves on its own around that hill and then rejoins. But aside from that, things weren't really that bad for Washington to Baltimore. This is unusual difficulty, and this is part of the reason why I offered to start this section off for Evan and the rest of the team. Because of the difficulty. It's starting to look better. That's a little too sharp now. We're getting there. We're like almost there with this curve. It appears to be a constant curvature once you get the number right, but it's not matching up with the track charts. like at all. That was 5284. That was still too sharp. Let's do 5340 or something like that. 5341. Okay, great. That's... Oh, okay. Where does it get perfectly straight again? Okay. Right there. Still slightly too sharp. I mean, oh so slightly. So let me do 5355. And then we should be good with that track. Assuming I can get it to go straight to the next curve properly. 53. It's just getting this radius right first. 5352 is good. Oh yeah. Not bad, not bad, not bad. Okay. Yeah, that looks good. So now if I can get this to go straight to the next curve, I think we'll be in a good spot. I can record all those numbers, fix the welds, and then we'll be good with this curve. And then we might be able to merge one of these things to it. I'll show you that. I do want to kind of get this track to be like perfectly center, which would require a slightly sharper curve. Is that worth it though? Nah, it's not worth it. Fuck it. $190. Nope, that's too much. I'm gonna back that off a little bit. 170. $162. That's fine. Just trying different values in order to get this spiral to end up perfectly straight to the next curve. And I found the value. Wow, second try. Okay, good. So now I gotta write down all these values, fix the welds, relay the curve. Awesome. The Google Maps seemed okay. It's the track charts that were off. So where I was supposed to have a radius of curvature of 6022 in game units, it ended up being like 5350. Because if I was following that value, I was finding that I would have had to readjust the curvature value mid-curve too many times, and that's just not... Yeah, I mean, it's sometimes off. I mean, that's not too far off, to be honest. Once you get into those higher values, that's really not that far off. Like, let me plug in different values to see where I could get like 0.35. No, not that high. 0.34, 0.33. Yeah, so right around there, 0.335. No, 0.33. Yeah. So where the track document said 0.29, it ended up actually being 0.33. So it's not really that big of a deal. It's just when you go, oh, from 5,300 to 6,000, that seems like a pretty big jump. But it's really not that big of a deal. Okay, so let's record all of these values and fix these welds before I continue. It's a long curve. Alright, so that's where the curve starts, right there. Just writing all these numbers down in my phone. So 30.9 at 5352.5. Actually, I shouldn't have to remember that, but okay. And then 500 meters, 1,000 meters, 1,500 meters, 1662.7. And then I come on out of the curve. Alright, cool. So we'll make our weld right here at the beginning of the curve, now that we know the values for our curve. Make our weld, and then we will lay 1,662.7 meters of track. 500, 1,000, 1,500, 162.7. And then I'll come out of it. Great. And then I'll just get up to where the next curve starts, which is like approximately here. I can always adjust that later. Oops. Oh, that's unavoidable, by the way. Every 1,000 meters you go without a weld, it auto-generates a weld. So we're going to have a weld here regardless. We can't help that. As much as I don't want to have a weld mid-curve, it's inevitable in this case, unfortunately. So, it's not a bad thing. Okay. But I am going to manually put a weld here. Because that's the end of our curve. Look at that. That's great. Now, this is where the tracks become parallel again. So what I'm going to do is lay some tracks adjacent to this. Now, you can use the offset tool for this. I think, let me test this out. I think all three tracks are still going to be the same distance apart. Is it 3.8 meters? I changed the track rule to be? Yeah, let me check. I think it's 3.8. So if I do this, and I just lay some track this way, actually it looks like it's separated again to like 4.2. Oh shit, see? After all of that, getting further away from where we started, now the track centers have changed. Now I just need to figure out that new value, plug it into the track rule, so going forward, as we lay our track, it is correct. But yeah, you can already see, when I place this, here, let me increase the opacity of the overlay. So when I place this in the direct center of track 3, you can already see how off it is on the other tracks. So we're going to have to increase that value in the track rule at another time. But for now, what I can do is use the offset tool from, where does the curve end? That curve ends here, but do the other curves end at that same spot? Probably not. They definitely stop before the switch. So from here, I'll use the select tool, go all the way down, and then I'll use the offset tool, and I'm going to type in a value, I don't know, we're going to have to figure out this new track spacing value anyway to throw in the track rule. Let's try 3.9. And you can already see it's not quite enough. It's not in the center of that track. 4. 4 looks okay, but if I do 8, that's not enough to get to that other track. Yeah, that should help you see better. Instead of, let's try 4.2. That looks pretty good. So now if we do 8.4, do we get to the center of the other track? And we do. So now we're back to our default track spacing according to the Washington to Baltimore track rule. Yeah. So I'm not going to do this now, but in my next stream, I don't know when that'll be because I'm working tomorrow, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Probably be Saturday or Friday night. Let's work on Friday night for now. I'm not going to schedule anything yet. but I'll adjust the track roll to 4.2. And I'm going to have, and actually I can actually do this now. I can actually pre-lay this straight bit of track where all these tracks come back together. Because I know now that the offset is going to be 4.2 meters. Use the offset tool, choose my track loft, click. And it's that simple. And we'll do the same thing with this one. Just make sure you get all the way down. Offset 4.2, click, boom. Now those tracks are pre-laid and ready to go. What I'm going to do at this point, first I'm going to save. And then when I lay these other two curves and get them up to this point, it's going to be impossible to get them naturally parallel to this track 1 that I already laid. It's going to be impossible. So what I'm going to do, and this is pretty advanced, is you can merge two tracks like directly into each other, and it takes quite a bit of trial and error, but that's the name of the game. And yeah, it's actually pretty freaking cool. I had to do it a few times. Like I mentioned, in Washington to Baltimore, that area around Milepost 117, where track 1 just splits off and goes around on its own around this hill and then rejoins seamlessly. That technique that I'm about to show you is what was used there and in many other places. West Baltimore is another great example, where those two tracks, track 1 and track A, split off from tracks 2 and 3 and then come back seamlessly. Exact same technique that I'm about to show you was also used there. Should I just try now? This is gonna suck. Should I just try now to get this track working properly now? I know I was having trouble with the track chart values before. We looked at the video, and where were we? Right here. I think I got this first part right, and then it shallows out, and I wasn't getting the right value at which it shallowed out. But now that I found out that the other track was so off on the track documents, I don't feel as bad about fudging this value too. So let's go back and look at the track charts. So it was 0.69 shallowing out to 0.26. Let's just try that one more time before I start messing with the curvature values. Let's just see how it's behaving. 67.16. Let's use the main line. Change this back to 1. 67.16. Am I even going to get that? One sec. Just a little discombobulated. Alright, here we go. 67.16. Perfect. Alright, so let's just see how this behaves. It seems to be veering off to the right quite a bit. Like, quite a bit. I'm really not convinced that's the right value. It needs to be sharper. I'm gonna try 6,000. And the passenger preset. Oops. Did that track remain? Oh yeah, let me get rid of that. Who knows, I might get lucky and it was just a little off on the charts. Who knows? But I want to show you this technique before the end of the day. I want to get that on this stream. It's like drastically curving off now. It's so weird. And I don't see any rips or tears in the imagery. Interesting. All right, let me add. should I add a little bit more to this track before I start shallowing it out? I'll add another 50 meters to it. I don't think that's going to help. I think that's only going to be a hindrance. Yeah, it's not right at all. Alright, I'm going to try to persevere through this, though. I think 200 is a good starting point. 217 or something stupid like that. 217 into 6,000 something. Ooh. Starting to play nicer. Even though it looks like it's off this way for a little bit. And then it comes out that way. Okay. This is bizarre. If I really do get stuck, I will make it a compound curve, I promise you. Yeah, this is just ridiculous. $6,400. Let's try that. I mean, it holds true for a while, but then it needs to be sharpened more. It's asking for it. It doesn't add up. Because it just suddenly starts veering off to the right. Alright, I'm just gonna go with that. Let me try to hold the track value, the track chart value as much as I can. 67.16. Let me try to make that hold as long as I can. I do want to hold as true to the track charts as I can. So 67.16. Use the passenger preset. Yeah, so like right about here, it starts to sharpen. Okay, yeah, like, let's just go with that right there. And it's not like it's gonna be sharpening by much. It might go down to like, I don't even know, 6,200 or something, or 6,000. Let's just try 5,700. Oh, no, it needs to go more. I'm really surprised. 5,300? No, no way. There's something wrong here. That doesn't make any sense. 4,500? Nope, because that doesn't hold true the entire time. Oh my god, this is pissing me off. Oh. Now I'm getting a little bit stressed pixelated. Alright, Nick. Have some fun with that work. I'm gonna keep trying to chip away at this if I can. Alright, so it's really good up to this point. It's really good up to this point. If I continue, if I continue with this sharpness of a curve, obviously it doesn't work. So obviously it has to change, like right about here. Right about there, it's got to change. And you would think, based on the charts, that it would maintain that change in radius all the way until the end of the curve. Doesn't appear to do that, though. So I'm just going to start playing around with values. $6,300 up to that point. And then I will transition to $5,200. Nope. Not sharp enough. But once I get to that point, it ends up being sharp enough. That is so weird. It's almost like it shallows out again, too. Completely bizarre. I did notice some weird curvature, though, in that video. If we look at the video again. So, this is the start of the curve. The sharp part at the beginning of the curve. And then I noticed, like, here, it shallows out. But there's some, like, other weird stuff going on here. Like, right there, I notice it getting a little sharper. Even though it's only by a little bit. And then it appears to shallow out again, right there. And then hold that. It has to. It absolutely has to. Alright, I'm gonna go with that. I have to, guys. Alright, so we started with that. Now we're getting into the normal part, and we're sharpening slightly. Did I already lay that little sharp bit? Yes, I did. 5243. Gotta go with this. Not sharp enough. Or I started that too late. Let's cut this back a little bit. $46. Oh, look at that. That's beautiful. And then right around there is where I saw it shallow out again. So, was it at the signal bridge I saw it shallow out? It is. Right at the signal bridge is where I'm seeing it shallow out again. No, I'm not going to let that slide pixelate. I can't do it. Alright, so that looks good. It just sucks that I have to be the one to discover flaws in the fucking charts. And then I'm going to shallow out again. So I did 4,600 there. Let's go back out to where we started. 6,300. Let's try that. Nope, not enough. Let's go back to what the charts say. 6,700. It's a little bit happier. Still not quite, which might mean that this section is a little bit too long. Once this works, though, you guys are going to just have your minds blown, I think. Because this is where we start getting into the cool stuff. 6,700, almost there. Still too sharp, though. I'm going to cut this back a little bit more. Oh, that is so close. I'm looking at that gray guideline for where the track is going to be. And that's how I know whether it was properly done or not. 6,700. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. That looks good. It's getting there. It's so close. Okay. I'm gonna cut this back ever so slightly more. $6,700. Yep, we found it. We're here. Alright, so I'm just looking at the chat again. Hey, Evan, nice of you to join us, man. He says, completely forgot about the stream. Sorry about that. No problem. Yeah, it's automatically archived on my channel. So if you want to watch it later, you're welcome to. We're about to get to some interesting stuff. We've just been tackling with some inconsistencies in the track documents. Hey, Heather. How you doing? So, yeah. The track documents said... Oh, shit. Here we go. Track documents said that the whole curve was the same radius, and it's not. And we're finding that out the hard way. So I'm finally coming out of the curve. Just gotta end this off nicely. And then we're gonna have to merge it to that straight piece of track that I laid previously. So let's get this to 400, because I really don't want to have to relay that whole curve again. So I'll get it up to this point. That looks good. Just want to make sure all the welds are in the right spots too. There's going to be a weld in the middle of the curve as it is. That's inevitable. I'm just going to leave that one there. So where's this curve starting? Right here. So I'm just going to plop a weld there. That's the start of the spiral. Great. Yeah, having fun. Been streaming for 2.5 hours now. I'm just developing some of this new route that my friend's making. Just helping him get it started and teaching other people some route building techniques for this game. It looks amazing. It's really nothing yet. This is built off of that project that I was playing a few weeks back. So it's an extension off of that. Now let me just do a quick save. Yeah, so once this finishes saving, what we're going to do is finish the curve, and then we have to finish it in such a way that it ends up continuing on almost perfectly parallel to this track that we just previously laid, and then we can get it to merge. It's a really, really, really weird technique, but it works really well. I'm just going to set that preset, and this could take a while, as if everything else didn't take a while. Where are we at? What interlocking is this? River? Point. We're at point. Interlocking. Milepost 90. Yeah, right around Bayview Yard, I think is what it's called. Okay. So we need to get this to end in such a way that the straight track that continues off is almost perfectly parallel to the track that we just laid. So it's just trial and error. I'm going to start with this length of track, 136.7. And just look down here, and that's a little bit too long, 136.7. So you just rip that up and try a slightly smaller number. let's just try 132. Still too large of a number. It's just veering off to the left too much. And once we get this, you'll see how it all comes together. Let's do 127.4. And you can actually lay a piece of track to see how it overlaps, to know how far off you are, if that helps. Takes a lot of practice, Henry. Don't get discouraged. I hope I'm not discouraging anybody by doing this. Let's try 120. That is not my goal, to discourage anybody from route building. This is just my level of precision that I like to adhere to. We're getting a lot closer, so 120 is still a little bit too much. But actually, we could see how it lines up here. Over here, it's not enough, but over there, it's too much. That might mean... Alright, here's what we're going to do. What we're going to do is we're going to... Let me think about this. I'm going to make this a little bit sharper. So right now it's at 6723. Let's bring it down to 60. Let's do 6,700 even, sorry. 6,700 even. And that was 520 meters of track afterward. $6,700, come on. Ugh, gotta get so close. 6,700, there we go. I got like 6,700.0 too, that was nice. 400 meters. So the reason I'm doing that is to make it a little bit more to the left, coming into where I want it. 400 and then 120, just like last time. And then we'll see where we're at. Oh, what the hell happened there? Oh, I accidentally went into the spiral. Oops. I didn't want to lay another east curve. Alright, cool. So we'll come out of this curve, and you should notice that this time it's a lot closer now. Because we made the main part of that curve a little bit sharper, we brought it in a little bit closer now. I wonder, though, if we keep laying like this, if it's going to cross over at some point down here, which isn't bad. That's what we're looking for. We are looking for that at some point. But I do want to just do one more little tweak. Instead of 6,700, let's bring it down to 6,690. Let's try that. And this is all going to make sense very, very soon. Just zoom in to get nice and precise. 6688, that's fine. Then we'll do another 520 meters of track, just like last time, to keep everything consistent. And then we'll come on out of this spiral, and let's test this again. It should be a lot closer. Ooh, so close. If I laid the track a little bit more, you can see it's almost parallel. It's coming together slightly. This is actually going to come out really nice. Let's do one more tweak. We know 6688 is a good value. We could make that work, but we can do a little bit better. do a little bit better. Let's do 6670. There we go. Another 520 meters of track. How was I able to get the track charts? I was able to get the track charts from a friend, as well as the videos and everything too. So it helps to know people. As long as the documents are used responsibly, that's all that matters. All right, so come on out of this curve, and let's see how this looks now. It's about as good as it's going to get, folks. That's about as good as it's going to get. It's just slightly overlapping to the right, which is fine, because that should come back together nicely up right in here a little bit. So I'm going to turn off the overlay. It's time to merge. It's time to merge an eased curve to a straight piece of track. So now this is a matter of trial and error too. You just keep relaying. Oh, see? When you get it right, it'll automatically generate a junction. This is the weird part. It thinks it's a junction, but it's actually not. So once you get a junction to be laid, you got to get very, very close in. And you can see that the track I just laid is veering off a little bit too far to the left, which is undesirable, which means I laid it too far. So I'm going to uncheck that. I'm actually going to extend this a little bit because we're getting really close to the buffer. Getting really close to the buffer. So I'm just going to remember these values. 22.0. Nope, not enough. 22.5. Alright, it generated a junction. And if you zoom in, there's still a little bit hanging off to the right. So I'm going to go back and I'm going to do 22.6. Let's take a look at that. Ooh, that's nice. And there it is, folks. Actually, I'm going to go a little bit more. Right between 22.6 and 22.7. And that's how you merge an eased curve to a straight piece of track. And that'll ride smoothly. You delete the junction, obviously, right here. And then you just plop your... A weld is always going to be there. That's inevitable. You're always going to have a weld there, where you merge an eased curve. Sorry, merged and eased curve. Tongue twister. Alright, so now I will put my weld... Actually, do I really need to put a weld that close? Nah, I'm just going to keep that weld there. And that's it. We can actually run a train over it if you want. I can whip up an Acela and let's do that. Let's test out our work. I like doing that from time to time. We're going to super elevate all the tracks. Not going to apply speed limit properties yet, because once you start messing with track elevation later on, it'll mess with any speed limit properties you defined previously. I learned that the hard way doing Washington to Baltimore. Okay, so first, let's super elevate this curve. Nice. Then we will super elevate this curve. And then we will super elevate this curve. Hey, Evan, are you still with us? Because this is all the work that we've been doing. You're here. Okay, cool. Super elevate this curve. And then finally super elevate this curve. Great. So now I'm going to start a train. Let me save, and then I'll go into the scenario editor. We'll start a train right around Biddle Interlocking on track 3 heading north. Alright. Scenario editor. Yes. It's all coming together, guys. Alright. Let's go to Biddle. Alright. Sell it Express. Just add a driver. Save. Alright, let's do it. I like turning on my ditch lights. Leave me alone. Alright, let's just get up to speed really quick. Alright, so it's going to maintain 60 miles per hour all the way until we get through Bay Interlocking. There might be a bump right where we started laying the track because I don't know if we smoothed out any terrain or anything for the track grade when we started. So there might be a bump right here, there might not be. It's whatever. There we go, this is where we started today. So this next curve is where pretty much all the curves decide to do their own thing. We laid each curve individually, all the way to where we just rejoined track 3 at Point Interlocking. So we found out that this is a compound curve, and we laid it that way. Which is good. And we come out, straight back into another curve right here at Bay. And then right after this curve, we get up to 110 miles per hour. Turn off the HUD because it's going to yell at me once I get above 79. We don't have any speed limits set. But I want you guys to notice how it looks when we rejoin that straight piece of track that we just laid at Point. That's going to be really interesting. Hey Penn Central, thanks for joining us. Alright, so this is where we're going to be rejoining that straight piece of track. That's it. That's how you do it. So now these 3 tracks are now parallel, and once I lay track, what is it? Finish connecting track 2 the same way that I just connected track 3, we'll be able to modify the track rule again to 4.2 meters of separation between the tracks, because that's what we calculated that it is. And then you'll just be able to go normally from here. All the tracks are together again. Alright. So I've already done almost 3 hours of streaming. Oop, here goes another train. That was in the cellar. Yeah, so I've done almost 3 hours of streaming now. If you guys joined late or whatever, you can always go back and watch the entire thing. But to recap, we started on a clean slate from right here at Milepost 93. Did this curve on all the way down, laid all these curves. I didn't do track A yet. That will be done later. I did track 3, 2, and 1. You'll notice that they all start at different places because they all have different curvatures, because once they get to like right about here, and especially over here, they start doing their own weird behavior, and they all start out and end in their own respective ways. So I had to lay them all independently, ensuring that they never got too close to each other at any point, making sure that the track centers were good. And then they came out. Track 2 is just left right here for now. We will be rejoining that to over here later on. Had a lot of trouble with track 3's curvature right about here. The track documents said it was a horizontal curve when it was in fact a compound curve, and we had to kind of guess at values, but we got it working, and it actually ran very, very smoothly. I don't know if you guys saw any noticeable bumps in there, but I certainly didn't. That was ended up being a nice smooth ride. And yeah, once we rejoin that, we'll be ready to continue north from this point. Does anybody have any questions whatsoever before I end the stream today? Got quite a bit done, and this was some complicated track work. This is not normal stuff that you're gonna run into. Can I message you the route? Yes, I can send you the route, because I will not be able to work on it again until probably Saturday afternoon. Because I'm working all week, and when I get home from work, I don't feel like doing this. So I hope you guys understand that. And you guys probably have the same situation where you get home from work during the weekday, and the last thing you want to do is watch me do this. Pixelade's asking, how much more track do you plan on doing yourself on stream? As much as Evan allows me to. I don't mind helping out with this. But actually, let's take a look at the track in the distance, like how difficult it is. Because the last thing I want to do is set these guys up for failure. That's why I volunteered to do that section, because those curves are just so freaking bizarre. So these are all parallel. Nice, nice. Here at River Interlocking, they're all together. There's no perceivable weirdness going on. Yeah, so I'll hand it off to him after I rejoin track 2 to that point, and then he can continue and let me work on it as needed. When will I start Philly Terminal? When we get there. We're 90 miles away from Philly Terminal right now. We're redoing all the track. After the stream 2 days ago, Evan and I agreed that we're going to redo the track. There were just far too many welds. Curvature values were like really, really all over the place. So Evan, by watching the stream back, you'll see the whole process of each curve, where I'm putting the welds. I'm laying the curve, getting it right, and then ripping up the curve, making sure the welds are good, then putting the curve back in. It's a process. It is a process. Yeah, trial and error. It's the name of the game. Any other questions? Trial and error, take your time. Yes, I'm glad that I drilled that into you. What would the trackage be like without super elevation? Oh jeez, it wouldn't be fun. You'd go into a curve and you'd just get jolted. It's not realistic at all if we did trackage without super elevation. And you have to do curves with the easements tool in order to properly super elevate a curve. Yeah, basically a roller coaster. All right. So yeah, Evan, I'm going to package this up to you right now, and I'll give you a Google Drive link or something. All right. Any other questions? I'll allow like 60 more seconds for anybody that wants to ask a last minute question. Otherwise, you can comment on the video or reach out to me on Facebook. You guys should have a good idea of how to find me. Oh, and there's also a project page on the Dovetail Games forums. If you haven't seen that yet, you can go to the content creators section in the Dovetail Games forums, and you should be able to find this project page there. Evan, if you or any other developers for the project want to write your own like statements, like hey, this is why we're doing this project, any just like words to the community, just let me know and I'll edit the thread. All right, I'm glad you guys liked the stream. I definitely want to do more of this stuff. I think it helps people out, and it makes people not wonder like, hey, how is this project going, or when is this going to get released? You can actually see in real time how we're making it, and be a part of it, which is awesome. All right, so I'm going to call the stream. You guys have a wonderful rest of your afternoon and evening. Happy Martin Luther King Jr. Day. Oh yeah, that was another thing that was brought up. Evan, Pixelade just brought this up. People are serious. They seem to be serious about donating to the project, which is cool. So we can consider that. All right, definitely gonna call the stream now. All right, love you guys. Bye.